I'm Tamara Banks, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, Historic Denver, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Today, we are presenting a candidate forum in anticipation of the municipal election coming up on Tuesday, May 7th. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates vying to represent District 9 as a member of Denver City Council. District 9 is located in central North Denver. Our format is a pretty standard one. The candidates will have timed opening and closing statements. The opening statements will be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by the organizers of the forum and possibly by you, the audience. Since we do have a time limit, we may not be able to get to all of the submitted questions. All of the candidates will answer all of the questions, and all of the responses will be timed. Our timers are right out front, where our candidates can see them clearly. So let's begin by meeting the candidates vying to represent District 9 at your City Council member. Let us begin with Jonathan Woodley, directly to my left. Seated next to him is Candy City-Baca. Next to her is Albus Brooks. And seated next to him is David Oletsky. Let's welcome our candidates this evening. We'll begin now with 1-minute opening statements from each of the 4 candidates. We will proceed in ballot order with these statements. So once again, starting at my left is, with an opening statement, is Jonathan Woodley.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Patrick Woodley, and I'm running to be your next District 9 City Councilman. Like so many Denver residents, I grow tired of hearing the same political rhetoric on why our city issues have seen little to no improvement. We're talking about the same issues that we have been talking about since 2011, again at 2015, and here we are now talking in 2019. In my experience, it takes an army to induce change, but we need effective leadership from the top. We live in a Denver where a selected few decide and many are silenced. It is time to recapture identity, diversity, and culture that made Denver great. Re-electing a reactive, self-preserving, special interest lobbyist such as Councilman Brooks will only lead us to continued disparity, displacement, and economic injustice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, let's hear from Candy City-Baca.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to my side of the tracks. I'm a 5th-generation Denverite. I know nothing that we're building in this city matters more than building up our people. I'm a social worker, a policy expert, a community organizer. I've spent almost 2 decades of my career working in and with government at the national level, the state level, and the local level. I've also trained youth throughout my career to insert their voices into policy. I've been fighting for this neighborhood in a range of different ways for the last 5 years and even before that. I always put people above profit, and I will continue to do so if you elect me as your councilwoman. So thank you for having me. My name's Candy City-Baca. I hope to earn your support.
All right, thank you. Now an opening statement from Albus Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Those of you who are here watching on TV and even at the table. My name is Albus Brooks. I've been serving in this community for the last 20 years with young people. I've raised a family in this community over the last 10 years, just over the blocks in the Cole neighborhood. Debbie, my wife, Makai, my son, my daughters, Kenya and Kaya. We love this community. And we're excited about this opportunity to share about our vision. You're going to hear a lot tonight about our different visions for how to move Denver forward. And I want to share mine, which is building an inclusive Denver. And we're going to do that by 3 ways. Building housing for all, making sure that we're investing in the next generation in early childhood education, and making sure that we have an equitable transit system where we're done just focusing on cars and begin moving people. So those are things that I'm focused on, and I can't wait to talk about the specifics of how we get there tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now, an opening statement from David Oletsky.
My name is David Oletsky. My family's been in the same area since 1870. Colorado wasn't a state till 1876. We've seen everything you can imagine in all these years. I'm 64 years old. I'm coming out of retirement. and I have a lot of life experience in this District 9 and all the neighborhoods. And what I see is we don't have a healthy, clean, safe environment. That is first and foremost. That is the human rights. That is a very basic human right. And we don't have that. And I ask all of you, do you have that? And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So now it's time to get to the questions, and we will begin in reverse order that we started in. So David, that means you'll be the first one to answer this question. The question is, the neighborhoods of District 9 have experienced great change in recent years and have struggled with displacement and the loss of cultural identity. How do you see preservation tools as contributing to preserving cultural identity?
You know, life has changed, and change is inevitable, and, you know, it's going to take a while for us to adapt, and it all makes a full circle. You know, these neighborhoods, like in District 9, we have extremely wealthy, and we have extremely poor. And we have to educate all of our youth that it takes education, and they have to work hard to get ahead. And it's very, very basic, hard work, you know. I mean, you can have all the education in the world you want, but if you don't have a work ethic, it's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you. Next, same question for Albus Brooks.
Yeah, in 2010, we found out that 80205 was the fastest gentrifying zip code in the country. And that was statistics taken by the census. And since we've seen that, I think it's important that we begin neighborhood stabilization. Two things happens with neighborhood stabilization. Number one is you begin to buy property and land to make sure you can do affordable housing. When I say affordable housing, that's deed-restricted housing from homeless all the way up to moderately income housing. Also, we need to make sure that we're investing and opportunities of employment in this neighborhood right now. Due to I-70, National Western, we are now hiring former felons. We are now hiring those who are formerly homeless and make sure that they're a part of the success of the city. Just this week and across the street over here at 48th and Race, the city purchased land so that we could build affordable housing. When we look around neighborhood stabilization, that's how we preserve our neighborhoods.
All right, thank you. Next, Candy City-Baca.
Did you specifically ask about preservation tools?
I did.
So we have some of the oldest neighborhoods in this district, and that consequently means we have some of the oldest structures in this district. A lot of them were very humble structures, but historic at that. We have one of the higher thresholds of preserving and getting landmark status in this city, and I think that we need to implement preservation tools that take the complete onus off of the residents in the neighborhoods and also provide tools to do preservation. But preservation also goes beyond aesthetics. When we talk about culture of a community, that also is referring to the people who live here and the way of life here. And so I think when we talk about preservation, the affordability piece is important, and affordability doesn't mean that we just build cheap, ugly structures to create affordability. It means that we build in systems that maintain a cost of living that's reasonable, accessible, skyrocketing taxes. I think we can look to that as a preservation tool to slow that.
Thank you. Jonathan?
I think one of the most important things we need to do to preserve our neighborhoods is to build the equity within our neighborhoods. But that also takes our neighborhoods to become more involved with our local government. We need to bridge the communication gap between the local government and our RNOs, or neighborhood associations. It's important that we do preserve the neighborhoods that we do have here in Denver. The cultural identity of this city is diminishing, and it's diminishing more and more each year. Now, the best way I can solve this problem is we re-elect. We take new leadership that will come with new and more innovative ideas that will protect people instead of protecting special interest groups. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the second round of questions, and this time we'll start with Albus Brooks. The question is, a recent ruling allows developers in the RiNo area to add height to buildings near the 38th and Blake RTD station if they include affordable homes. Do you agree or disagree with this policy?
I agree with it because I wrote it. And so I wrote it with the community in mind. I met with the Glova, Leary, Swansea, Cole, Curtis Park, 5 Points of RiNo neighborhoods, and we came together and we said, what if we're right here at a transit stop? What if we added more density, but at the same time we got the community needs that we're all looking for? So affordable housing, community serving businesses if it's commercial. And the community at the time was under a lot of pressure and accepted that and said, you know what, we want community serving businesses. Density does need to be right at transit. That is a national best practice. We got this. This is the first time in our land use and zoning history that we have incorporated affordable housing and community serving businesses with our land use entitlements. Nowhere else in the city has this been done. We're doing it now, and we're trying to do it more effectively in other parts of the city.
All right, thank you. Candy.
So I actually agree with embedding affordability into new development, but that is not what happened at that project. The height incentive is an incentive. It's not a mandate, not a requirement, and it's insignificant. We upzone to the degree that the incentive isn't even necessary for a developer to generate profit, keeping under the height limits. So I do think we need affordability as a mandate, not as an incentive.
Thank you. David? I'm sorry, Jonathan?
I do agree with it, and that's one of the issues that I actually do agree with Councilman Brooks. I believe that in adding height, it's necessary. We need to add density in order to develop these affordable housing units, as long, though, as it's the sole purpose to build affordable housing units. If that is the case, if that's the intent that will lead to the impact, then I 100% agree. But we're also going to have to garner the community insight. And the community will have to be involved in these discussions. And it serves no purpose if they are not included.
All right, thank you. And David?
Yes, I completely agree with this. We need the density, and nowadays, 50% of the people don't drive cars. They either ride bicycle or walk. So we need to have the density around our light rail stations. And we need it all over the city. And, you know, we've never seen a boom like this ever in Denver. This is all new to me, and I've been here 64 years. And it's a great thing that we're having, you know. I mean, we're really getting recognized, and you know, it's just gonna get better and better, and we have to have new ideas like this, and it'll work out very well.
Okay. Next question, and we'll start with Candy. You'll answer this question first. The question is District 9 a safe place to live and work, and are the streets as safe as they could or should be?
I personally have lived through times in this community where it wasn't safe or wasn't considered safe by outsiders and felt safe in my neighborhood. I think that we've had some upticks in gang violence in different areas of the district that are a result of pushing different gang communities into the same spaces. And so I think that we have an economic inequality issue, not a safety issue. And so, yes, I feel very safe in this district.
Thank you. Jonathan Woodley?
Do I personally feel safe in my own district? Well, absolutely. But I'm military trained, and not all Denver residents have that sort of safety and that training. I live in the middle of the Central Business District. I've been there for 12 years. My own significant other always asks me to go to the parking lot to where she parks, which is 1 block away, because she's scared of the streets. And honestly, I feel that our law enforcement, they're handcuffed. There's so little that they can do. I'm all about putting more resources to our law enforcement that we can have these safe streets. But do we have safe streets now? No. Is there more that can be done? Absolutely. By giving the resources needed to our fire, to our police forces. And honestly, I feel that this is another failure on our local government.
All right, thank you. David?
I don't believe that we have healthy, clean, safe environments. It's not because we don't want to. I mean, our first responders are awesome. You know, I mean, these guys really work hard. Police, fire. And, you know, I've worked in my area for the last 20 years. My family's been working at it for 40 years with contamination, air quality, you know, doing health impact studies. You know, I don't see it. We still have a lot of work to do. And every quarter, I work with National Jewish on air monitoring. I wear a monitor 3 days, and I log everywhere I go to see what the air condition is, no matter where I'm at. And I've been doing this for years, and we've worked with developing Platforms Open Space, which has got some national recognition, the first time it's ever been done, you know, and it's on contaminated property. And we're continuing to work, and I don't see a healthy, clean environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Elvis?
Did you also say safe streets, insinuating mobility issues?
The question is District 9 a safe place to live and work, and are the streets as safe as they could or should be?
Okay, so no. So I'll say, you know, being the council person, living in this community for the last 20 years, working with community groups, police departments, I feel like this is one of the safest, first of all, this is one of the safest cities in America, top 7. And in this district, we have a lot of focus with District 6 and District 2, not just police, but community policing. Having our officers work with the community and make sure that they are not over-policing our communities. And so I do feel like it's safe. There are issues that we have. We have some issues with the Lodo scene. We have issues with, you know, some gang violence in the Clayton and Cole neighborhoods as of late. But there's ways that we're addressing it in a holistic way, in a holistic fashion. And this is a place where most residents tell me that they feel safe and they feel a part of this community. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next question for our council candidates. And this time, Jonathan, you'll be the first one to answer. The question is, please describe what you see as the detriments and or benefits of neighborhood gentrification.
Well, I'll list the benefits first, and that is that we're upgrading. And what I mean by upgrading is we're updating. But from there, how are we doing this? And to what degree is it affecting our residents? To that degree, what we are doing is we're losing diversity. We're losing culture. We're losing Denver as a whole. I'm not a native here, but I've lived downtown for over 20 years. That should not make a difference in how we develop this city. More people are moving out than they are moving in. That's going to affect our real estate markets, and we're going to see that in the coming years. So there's more detriment that we're doing right now than the good that it could possibly bring forth.
Thank you. David, your turn.
I haven't seen any gentrification in my neighborhood. And, you know, what I've been working on is gentrification, but I call it making our neighborhoods whole again. I was just at my parish today, St. Joseph Polish, to talk to the priest about getting the convent turned back into a veterans home again. We had a veterans home there that was taking the veterans off the street, homeless. And I feel that's a very important thing to do. It's an emergency that we get the veterans off the street and the elderly, you know, and that's just building a better neighborhood. And this is what, you know, I've been working for years, you know, and they call it gentrification. I'm thinking, wow, I didn't know that, but, you know, it takes a lot of work and we got a long way to go. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Elvis?
Yeah, so gentrification is something that's been talked about for a while, and just to set the base, it's a higher median income moving into a lower median income neighborhood, investing into a lower median income neighborhood, and that hits on race and class, and it has hit on race and class in AO 205 and AO 216. And I think the issue is the displacement. The issue is a breakdown of the historical neighborhood and culture, and folks have felt a sense of loss. And that's what we have been responding to. And the way to address that is inclusivity, is building an inclusive Denver, is housing, is employment opportunities, is bringing the community together and saying, we are one community. Understand the historical context of each neighborhood is how you begin to stabilize these neighborhoods and deal with rapid investment and changing of the neighborhoods. And so that's the things that we've been working on. That's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you. Candy?
Gentrification, by definition, is not describing a positive process. It's describing really the negative aspects of development and a set of policies that reorient a city from serving its people to develop or generating profit for developers and the wealthy. And so it's hard for me to talk about benefits of gentrification, because what it's really getting at is the way that cities develop and bring amenities and bring changes, but not for the population that was there, but rather for a new population that can afford to be there. And it's an ongoing machine that chews up whoever is coming in over time. It just picks a different victim of a different time. And so it'll chew anybody up, because it's fundamentally the way we gear policies to not serve people and to serve the wealthy and the corporations.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next question. This is a mouthful. Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation passed a resolution to ask officials of the City and County of Denver to postpone bringing the Denver Right Plan documents for approval until after the City Council members and the mayor are sworn in following the upcoming 2019 city elections, because the incoming mayor and the City Council members should not be held accountable for the Denver Right Plans passed immediately prior to their election. Do you agree or disagree with this resolution, and why? And we'll start with David.
I agree that they should put it off till after the election. It's not fair to City Council or the mayor.
Okay. Next, Elvis.
I respectfully disagree with INC, and here's why. This has been a 3-year process. It's been hundreds of meetings. 10,000 people have been engaged in it. For the first time in our comprehensive plan history, we're adding the words equity. We are talking about race, gender, all of the barriers that communities have talked about for so long. And I think we're doing the right thing. We are telling folks where we want the growth to go in this city. 90% of the growth is going to grow around our transit-oriented development stations, around our high-density area. That has what neighbors in my 17 neighborhoods in District 9 have been asking for. Let's make sure we don't have the growth coming to these neighborhoods. Let's direct the growth. If we put this off, it's a slap in the face to the individuals who've worked so hard to be a part of this entire process. And I think this process has been well. It's not everything we want, but I think it's done well.
Candy.
I agree with the resolution. In fact, my RNO was one of the RNOs that wrote letters to get that resolution. I think that when we approach policy, or when I approach policy, I look at people, process, and priorities. And this process, with 10,000 people participating, that's not even a % of the Denver population. And so to call that real participation or decision-making is really a slap in the face to the residents of this city. I think we can do better. I think we should be doing better, and I don't think we should be pushing plans of that scale on neighborhoods. Neighborhoods should have their own sovereignty to be able to say what they want and what they need in their community, and that is how we should do development.
Thank you. And Jonathan.
I 100% agree with the postponement of the Denverite plan, and here's why. There's a great chance that we might have a new mayor in this city. There's a great chance that there will be new council members for Denver, and it's only appropriate for them to have a say in the direction to which we follow. Now, of course, Councilman Brooks will agree with this pushing the Denverite because he's comfortable. He's been comfortable for 8 years, and he's comfortable in thinking that he's going to be reelected for another 4 for a total of 12 years as councilman. But history shows that there's a good reason for him to be comfortable because only 1 seat has been unseated since 1987. But I tell you this much, 2019, Denver is ready for change, and we will make change, I guarantee.
Okay, moving on to our final round of pre-submitted questions for the candidates, and this is a quote, I'll quote this from the audience, and we will begin with Albus. You'll be the first one to answer. The question is from the audience, and I quote, "Seriously, why should I vote for you versus the other candidates here at the event tonight?"
Seriously, being a city council representative is about, to me, about listening, about legislation, and it's about leading. So one, listening. You should vote for me because I've sat down and really had to listen to individuals who think differently than me, who don't agree with my policies, and I found consensus with them in every neighborhood around this city. Number two, I think legislation. Everybody can have an idea, but someone has to pass that. And you have to get 6 other people to pass that legislation. Every legislation that I put forward, I've passed, and I've been unanimously elected as president for 2 terms in the city. And then third, leading. The toughest issues in the city are in District 9, bar none. No one is comfortable. Everyone is dealing with those issues head on. There's not a neighborhood, there's not a community event that I haven't been to and talked with these individuals to say, how can we make this city better? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Candy?
I think we've had 8 years of the current leadership to prove to us where their priorities lie, and it is clear that people in this city are not the priority of this leader. I think that for me, I'm different because I have a track record of experience fighting in this neighborhood for the impossible, to do the impossible. We have achieved the impossible against our representation, against the failures of this city. And so my commitment is long-term. This is not a stepping stone. This is not a career move. I came back to this community. I chose this community to invest my time in, and my track record speaks for itself, so.
All right, thank you. Jonathan?
The number one reason why voters should vote for me is because I bring a sense of balance, and that's a political balance, to where true inclusion is involved. Now, true inclusion involves everyone. As long as you're a resident here in Denver, I will listen to your voice. If you're a neighborhood association, I will come to you. You don't have to come to me. I feel that there is an integrity issue and a cultural issue in our local government that needs change. We're too mayor strong, and we have individuals like Councilman Brooks who are just waiting for that seat to open up in 2023. So District 9, it's just a waiting time for Councilman Brooks for his election in 2023 as mayor.
All right, next, David.
The reason you should vote for me is I have history, life experience. I've never seen anyone in council take care of neighborhoods outside of their own. I've never seen council people come to us and say, what would you like to see? You know, we did a neighborhood plan, and it's sitting on the shelf, you know. Nobody in council said, well, let's get to work on this. I will. You know, I constantly move around my neighborhood, my district, you know, and see what needs to be done. We have big trucks driving in areas they shouldn't. We have big trucks and children getting mixed up, you know. And the other thing, I'll push back on anybody. It doesn't matter. I'll push back on anybody in city council. The other day when I was driving down to the election commission, I'm driving down, I'm thinking, should I? Okay, thank you.
The audience can't see the big pink stop sign up here. Thank you so much for paying attention to that timing. So now we're going to do something a little bit different, something fun called the lightning round. So the candidates will be asked a series of short questions, and they can only answer yes, no, or pass. And again, yes, no, or pass, no explaining or expanding. And we'll go in ballot order, starting with you, Jonathan, and go on down the road. And so each question will start at the same place, okay?
Okay.
First question. Do you believe that Denver's current plans to expand and repair sidewalks are adequate?
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Next question. Do you see a new political party forming in Denver around anti-growth? Same order. Do you see a new political party forming in Denver around anti-growth?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Do you think Denver needs more green space?
Yes.
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 Should the city of Denver create a mechanism that would hold the mayor more accountable?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
Have you done any volunteer work in your district?
Yes.
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 Should Denver expand its use of photo red light enforcement?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
In the 5 years since it was legalized, have you personally tried any of the various products offered by recreational marijuana stores?
No.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you attended your neighborhood association meeting in the last 6 months?
I don't even know if the central...
Yes, no, pass.
Sorry.
You can pass.
Pass.
Yes.
Yes.
Could you say that again?
Have you attended your neighborhood association meeting in the last 6 months?
Yes.
Have you ridden or used a rental scooter or bike for business or fun in the last 6 months?
No.
No.
Yesterday.
No.
Do you currently own or do you plan to own an electric car?
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
Do you believe that Denver is a world-class city?
Absolutely, yes.
No.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Do you support Initiative 300, the Right to Survive initiative?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Do you get your newspaper from a traditional newspaper, that is, one printed on paper?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
All right. Now on to our next round, and this is a little bit different. It's going to be the candidates asking the questions of one another. Each of you will select one of your opponents to ask a question, and hopefully they'll have a good answer for you. We will go in ballot order again. So, Mr. Woodley, you may ask one of your opponents a question, and if you are asked the question, candidates, you have 1 minute to answer.
All right, who to ask? Let's go with Albus. Prior to the teacher strike resolution, the council committee approved of an increase in the council salaries by 10%, which you supported, also on the heels of the King Soopers and City Market strike for livable wages. Do you think it's fair to vote on your own increase in pay, and will you return the difference back to your community?
Thank you for the question, Jonathan. This is a challenge because in our charter, we are required to vote for the pay raise of all elected officials in the city, the mayor, the auditor, the clerk, and city council. We get to choose between the salary of what the employees have been making or the comp salary. And we always choose the smaller salary. And so we chose what the employees were making, so we got the exact same salary of what employees were making for the city of Denver. If we want to change that, I'm happy to put that on and make sure to the vote of the people for us to change that. I'm happy to do it, but I'm required to vote on that every year.
All right, thank you. Candy, your turn to ask an opponent a question.
This is for Albus. You are sitting in the most polluted zip code in America and a crime scene for government-sanctioned violence against our community. How do you propose we deal with the environmental disasters that are occurring in this community?
I appreciate the question. And if anybody wants to read a great article, go to Denverite on 80216, because there is a little bit confusion on the most polluted zip code. But Glova-Lyra-Swansea is polluted, and we must deal with things. And so we have been working with DDPHE, which is our Denver Environmental Public Health and Environment, making sure, number one, that residents have access to their air monitors, making sure that everyone can do that. Number two, we want to make sure that we are working with our state and federal officials. And so I've had conversation with former Speaker of the House, Crisanta Duran, and also our representative, Michael Bennett, to start saying, what can we do to start creating equity in this community to a community that has seen extreme environmental issues in this community. So the city can't do it alone. We're going to need state and federal help to start investing into this community.
Thank you. Now, Albus, it's your turn to ask an opponent a question.
Yes, you know, I'm going to ask, Candy, I have a question for you. So in 2017, 70% of our city supported our Denver bond, which is the largest bond in Denver's history. And though that bond specifically is putting a new pool at Swansea Rec Center, it is putting a pedestrian bridge so kids can connect from Elyria to Swansea Elementary and connecting every sidewalk in Glova-Lyra-Swansea. Why did you fight that?
I think it's an irresponsible way to spend our money in this city in the midst of a housing crisis. When you pass a GO bond, it's basically like mortgaging your future, right? You base that on taxes or expected taxes of an area. And when you're talking about a housing crisis, you're talking about people who are experiencing the burden of rising taxes. And so when you pass all of that to develop, that is exactly what we were talking about earlier when we say gentrification is about building communities, but not for the communities that are there. And so the GO bond to me represented just that, and it was an irresponsible way for us to spend our money as a city.
All right, thank you. And finally, David, it's your turn to ask a question.
Okay, you know we're coming at you, Albus. But this raise you guys voted in for yourselves, is that going to be retroactive to back to the first of the year, or where does it start?
No, it will start next year.
Okay.
Okay. Going on to another round of one-on-one questions. Again, candidates, you can ask an opponent a question, and whoever answers has 1 minute to answer. And so, David, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. Could you say that again?
Of course. We're going to do another round of one-on-one questions, so you can ask an opponent a question, and everyone who answers has 1 minute to answer.
Okay. Candy, you're all about housing, and you can't get any cheaper housing than Globeville, Swansea, and Elyria. You know, I mean, they're going to have to work harder. I mean, how can we change that? I mean, if it's that cheap, I mean, housing is that cheap, why do we have to help anybody?
Oh, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Why do we have to help anybody get affordable housing? It's already affordable in Globeville.
So affordability and gentrification in our neighborhoods has a lot to do with those taxes I was talking about earlier. So in 2015, my taxes here in Swansea went up 68%. In the following 2-year cycle in 2017, they went up 73% on top of the prior cycle's increase. Those, for people who have taken out a second mortgage, for people who have their first mortgage, even though your mortgage amount doesn't change, your escrow does. If you have paid off your house and you're on a fixed income, those are not costs that can typically be absorbed very easily. And so when we talk about changing neighborhoods and preserving naturally occurring affordability, I think that we need to specifically understand that just because your neighborhood isn't affected yet, doesn't mean that it won't be affected. We're borrowing against our taxation. Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. Albus, your turn to ask a question.
Yeah, I just have a question for Jonathan. I know you've been in the community for 12 years downtown. I've seen
Close to 20.
The folks to my right and left at many community meetings, and we've worked together. I've not seen you at anything. So where have you been in the community, and have you been attending any meetings at all?
That's actually a great question, Albus. So I've currently am a sergeant in our Colorado National Guard. So a lot of times when I'm helping communities, you won't see me. In 2016, 2017, I was deployed to the Middle East in countries of Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Kuwait. So while I was fighting on a different battle line, I have been serving my community here in Denver, here for Colorado, and for the United States of America. Also, my volunteer efforts since coming back, I don't need to publicize them. But I volunteer at the museum, the Urban Peak Center, and various other volunteer opportunities. So that's where I've been. And if you've ever been to the Yard House on 16th Street Mall, I was a manager there for over 5 years, and multiple downtown restaurants in Lodo.
All right, thank you. Candy.
This is for Albus again, campaign finance. This is a fun one. District 9 is the most expensive district to run in, and you're the top fundraiser on council. You raised over $220,000 in the last election that translated to almost 5,000 votes. Have you received contributions from developers or special interest groups? And if so, how does that affect your decision making?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So our period for fundraising is for 4 years. When one period ends in 2016, it goes all the way to 2019 until the election. So I have developers, I have union folks, I have my seatmate over here is a donor. I have many of you in the audience. I have grassroots to grass tops folks giving to our campaign, and that's the kind of campaign that we have. It's inclusive. I have someone who just gave us $3. And so everybody who gives us $1 to this campaign signs on to our inclusive Denver vision. So those developers are signing on to the first ever affordable housing linkage fee that they all opposed at the hearing. And so, you know, folks can give to me, but they have to know that there's a bar that we're setting in the city and county of Denver, and that bar is to create an inclusive Denver. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Jonathan, you may ask an opponent a question.
Thank you. My question's going to be to Candy. Many in North Denver are aware of your social work and community outreach. However, based on your stances of political ideology, what experience do you have on shaping the economy of the city and not turning Denver into a true welfare state where there's limited potential for personal wealth and savings?
Well, I guess We'll just address the elephant in the room. I don't believe that our current economic system actually works. Capitalism by design is extractive, and in order to generate profit in a capitalist system, something has to be exploited. That's land, labor, or resources. And I think that we're in late phase capitalism, and we know it doesn't work, and we've got to move into something new. And I believe in community ownership of land, labor, resources, and distribution of those resources. And so whatever that morphs into, I think is what will serve community the best. And I'm excited to usher it in by any means necessary.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time to move into the closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll reverse the order of the opening statements, which means we'll begin with David. You'll get your first chance to speak on closing statements, and you have 1 minute, please.
Thank you. My closing statement is I'm striving for healthy, clean, safe neighborhoods. Now, after this election is over, win or lose, these guys are going to disappear. They're gone. I'll be there. I've been there all my life. My family has been in this area for 149 years. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to work on contamination. We're going to work on all the issues that need work. You know, the children. I'm one. I play Santa Claus every year for the kids. I don't know why, you know. But I feel that all children should have the most pleasant beginnings because they're our future. And I have to do it. I'm committed to this neighborhood. And that's kind of a downfall because once I get committed, I sleep it, eat it, and breathe it. And I've been doing that. But if I get elected, it'll even be more so.
Thank you. Albus?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank our moderator. Did a great job. So I just want to be very clear on what an inclusive Denver is. It's Sherrod Kendall. Sherrod was a young man that I used to work with. He spent 2 years in prison for a poor decision that he made, and I got the opportunity to write a letter for him. He was then a letter of support, and he was then placed on parole and back in his community. He is now reconnected with his family. He has job placement. He has housing. And that's what we talk about when we talk about an inclusive Denver, is removing barriers for the Sherrods of the city and connecting them with opportunities of our city. I'm not looking to limit who we are and the success of Denver. I'm looking to harness that and make sure that individuals like Sherrod can be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candy?
We've heard a lot tonight about listening to community. I think that listening is not enough. I think we need to change things, change policies that are embedded and deprive community of the decision-making power that we should have as residents of this city. I'm tired of hearing that a rising tide lifts all boats. It does not. It has tipped our boat over for the working people of this city, and we're drowning. And we need to build policy that protects the communities that have built this city and will be here to pick up the pieces. I'm here because I also am a fifth-generation resident of this community. I'm a first-generation high school graduate who got 2 degrees, lived on both coasts, got to travel the world, and still chose to come back to my home community to invest my energy and resources in lifting up the voices that are always silenced. So that's what I'm here to do. That's what I've done without a paycheck, without a title, and will continue to do that.
Great, thank you. Now, Jonathan Woodley.
Thank you all for coming out and to the millions watching live stream right now. My closing arguments is more of a question towards the voters. I want you to ask yourself, has Councilman Brooks done enough in the last 8 years? Will he do enough if he's reelected for 4 more? The answer is no. 2/3 of Denverites are living paycheck to paycheck. We have a systematic problem that will continue to grow if Councilman Brooks is reelected. Our leaders created an exclusive Denver. Denver does not need another wolf in sheep's clothing. If that is what you want, re-elect. But understand this, many families are one layoff or one life event from uprooting their whole life. The culture of our local government must change and the focus must be shifted. Inclusion means that everyone is included, not just those who can afford it. I'm a sergeant in the Colorado National Guard, a combat veteran, and have over 15 years of business management experience in the heart of Denver. Thank you. My name is Jonathan Patrick Woodley, and I'm running for District 9.
Now let's give our candidates a big round of applause. Thank you all for being here. Great job. Also, our thanks to our Denver Decides partners, which include Interneighborhood Cooperation, the League of Women Voters of Denver, and Historic Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. We hope we've given you a fair look at each of the candidates vying to represent those of you here in District 9 on Denver's City Council. Make sure you get out to register to vote and then vote. For all information online, go to denverdecides.com. I'm Tamara Banks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.